Standing in my client's magnificent garden, surrounded by the sweet scent of blooming jasmine and the gentle whisper of fountains, I almost forgot about tomorrow's Mother's Day dinner. Almost. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Jessica. Don't forget, 6 p.m. sharp. And please dress appropriately this time. I glanced down at my soil-stained work boots and custom-tailored gardening pants, smiling slightly. Jessica would probably have a heart attack if she knew these dirty work clothes cost more than her designer suits. But that was just one of many things my family didn't understand about my life. "Ms. Morgan?" A voice called from the mansion's terrace. "Could we discuss the new Mediterranean section?" "Of course, Mrs. Patterson." I tucked my phone away and headed up the travertine steps, each one probably worth more than my first car. Mrs. Patterson, wife of tech billionaire James Patterson, stood waiting in a silk caftan that probably cost as much as some people's monthly rent. "The lavender field is coming along beautifully," she said, gesturing to the purple-hued slope I'd designed. "The Vanderbilts saw it last week and immediately wanted to know who did our landscaping." I nodded professionally, though inside I was grinning. The Vanderbilts were exactly the kind of clients my new high-end landscape design firm, Eden Innovation, specialized in. Not that my family knew anything about that. To them, I was still just their disappointment of a daughter who played in the dirt for a living. Never mind that my playing in the dirt had built a multi-million-dollar company with contracts across 3 continents. Never mind that celebrities and billionaires competed for spots on my waiting list. Never mind that, at 32, I'd revolutionized sustainable luxury landscaping. No, to my family, I was just Isabel Morgan, the one who'd thrown away her business degree to become a gardener. "I was thinking," Mrs. Patterson continued, "the Mediterranean garden could cascade down this slope, with ancient olive trees and cypress creating natural walls." She gestured expansively at the bare hillside. I pulled out my tablet, quickly sketching a design. What if we did something like this? Terrace levels with drought-resistant herbs, a traditional stone pathway winding through. My fingers flew across the screen, bringing the vision to life. Mrs. Patterson's eyes lit up. "Yes, exactly. And could we incorporate a water feature? I'm thinking a series of small falls using recycled rainwater." I added it to the sketch. We could hide the collection system in those rock formations, keeping everything sustainable but luxurious. This was what I loved about my work, creating beauty that worked in harmony with nature. But try explaining that to my mother, who still introduced me as my daughter who couldn't handle corporate life. After finalizing the Mediterranean garden plans with Mrs. Patterson and checking on my crew's progress with the new Japanese meditation garden we were installing on the East Lawn, I headed home to my modest apartment. Another thing my family loved to criticize. "You could afford something bigger," Mom always said, not knowing that I owned the entire building. I just chose to live in the penthouse apartment because it had the best roof garden in the city. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my assistant, Mia. "The White House contract just came through. They want to move forward with the full Sustainable Gardens project. $40 million, just like we quoted." I sat down hard on my custom-designed garden bench, surrounded by the exotic plants I used to test new designs. The White House. The actual White House wanted my company to redesign their gardens, incorporating all our innovative sustainable technology. For a moment, I considered calling Mom to share the news. Then I remembered last Thanksgiving. "At least your sister has a real career. Law school was worth every penny we spent. But you just dig holes and plant flowers." No, better to wait for tomorrow's dinner. Maybe seeing the contract in black and white would finally make them understand. I spent the evening reviewing designs for upcoming projects: a rooftop forest for a tech company in Singapore, a desert oasis for a sheik in Dubai, a vertical garden for a sustainable skyscraper in London. Eden Innovation had become the go-to firm for innovative, sustainable luxury landscaping, even if my family still thought I worked as a basic gardener for rich people. The next morning, I woke early to tend to my experimental rooftop garden. My latest project involved developing new strains of drought-resistant ornamental plants, something that could revolutionize luxury landscaping in arid regions. The morning sun painted the city gold as I checked soil sensors and adjusted irrigation systems. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Your mother hopes you're not coming straight from work today. Please make an effort to look presentable." I looked down at my simple linen dress and handmade Italian leather gardening boots. The outfit probably cost more than Dad's entire wardrobe. But he'd never recognized quality unless it came with obvious designer labels like Jessica's clothes. At 5:45 p.m., I pulled up to my parents' suburban home in my Tesla Model Y. Another source of family criticism: why drive such a basic car when you could afford better? They had no idea I also owned a collection of luxury vehicles. I just preferred the Tesla for work. Jessica's Mercedes was already in the driveway, gleaming like her perfect corporate career. Through the window, I could see her holding court in the living room, probably regaling our parents with stories of her latest big case. I straightened my dress, hand-sewn by an artisan in Milan. Not that they'd notice, and headed inside. The awkward silence that fell when I entered was familiar. Mom looked me up and down, her disapproval clear. "Oh, Isabel," she sighed. "Couldn't you have dressed up a little? It's Mother's Day." "Happy Mother's Day, Mom." I handed her a small package, seeds from a rare flower I developed, though she'd probably prefer something from the mall. Jessica air-kissed my cheek, careful not to muss her perfect makeup. "How's the gardening business, Izzy? Still playing in the dirt?" I bit back a retort about how my playing in the dirt had revolutionized sustainable agriculture in 3 countries. Instead, I just smiled. "It's going well." "Well?" Dad scoffed from his armchair. "That's hardly the word for manual labor. Your sister just made partner at her firm. Now that's something to be proud of." Mom ushered us to the dining room, where she'd set out her best china, probably for Jessica's benefit. I noticed my place setting was slightly askew, as if my presence was an afterthought. "So," Mom began once we were seated, "Jessica was just telling us about her new corner office. 32nd floor, view of the entire city." "That's nice," I said, serving myself some salad. "The tomatoes look good, Mom. Homegrown." "Store-bought," she said stiffly. "Some of us don't have time to play in gardens all day." Jessica smiled smugly. "I just took on a huge corporate client. Fortune 500 company. The retainer alone is 6 figures." "That's wonderful, darling," Mom beamed. Then her face fell as she turned to me. "Isabel was always good with numbers too, before she—" "Well, before I what, Mom?" I asked quietly. "Before you threw it all away," she burst out. 4 years of business school, internships at top firms, and for what? To dig in dirt for rich people." The table fell silent. Dad studied his plate while Jessica smirked. I could feel my phone burning in my pocket, the White House contract waiting to be revealed. "You know," I said carefully, "there's more to my work than you think." "Oh, please," Jessica rolled her eyes. "We all know you do garden maintenance for wealthy clients. Nothing wrong with that, but let's not pretend it's something it's not." Mom nodded. "Honestly, Isabel, it's embarrassing. What am I supposed to tell my friends when they ask about you? My daughter digs in dirt for a living." I pulled out my phone, opening my emails. "Actually, Mom, since you're so concerned about what to tell your friends—" "Don't try to justify it," Dad cut in. "We spent a fortune on your education, and this is how you repay us. At least your sister made something of herself." That was it, the final straw. "Would you like to know what I really do?" I asked, my voice steel quiet. "Would you like to see what digging in dirt really looks like?" I opened the White House contract email and set my phone on the table. "Take a look." Mom squinted at my phone screen, her expression shifting from dismissive to confused. Jessica leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against her wine glass. "The White House?" Dad's voice cracked. "What is this?" "A $40 million contract," I said calmly, "for my company to redesign and modernize the White House gardens using sustainable technology and innovative water conservation systems." The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica grabbed my phone, her eyes widening as she scrolled through the contract. This can't be real," she stammered. "You're just a gardener." I took my phone back, pulling up Eden Innovation's portfolio website. "Actually, I'm the founder and CEO of the world's leading sustainable luxury landscaping firm. We have offices in London, Dubai, and Singapore. That dirt I've been playing in, it's revolutionized water conservation in luxury estates across 3 continents." Mom's face had gone pale. But you work for rich people. We've seen you in work clothes, driving that basic car." "Those work clothes are custom-made Italian designs. That basic Tesla, it's one of 8 cars I own. I just prefer it for site visits." I scrolled through photos on my phone. "See this rooftop forest in Manhattan? My design. That floating garden in Monaco. My patent. The self-sustaining desert oasis in Abu Dhabi. My technology. Dad's hands were shaking as he reached for my phone. These are real? All of these. The Pattersons, the Vanderbilts, 3 Middle Eastern royal families. I ticked off names. Those are just my clients from this month. Next week, I'm flying to Singapore to consult on a billion-dollar eco-development project. Jessica's smug expression had crumbled. But you never said anything. You let us think. I let you think what you wanted to think. I cut in. Every time I tried to explain my work, you all talked over me, made assumptions, decided that because I worked with plants and soil, I must be some kind of failure. Mom was still staring at the White House contract. $40 million? For gardens. For a complete redesign of the historic grounds using my patented water conservation system. We're installing smart irrigation, sustainable features, and a cutting-edge greenhouse facility. I paused. The contract made headlines this morning. Didn't you see the news? As if on cue, Jessica's phone buzzed. She picked it up, her face draining of color. Oh my God. The partners just sent a firm-wide email. About you. They want to know if I can set up a meeting. They're planning a new eco-friendly office complex, and Eden Innovation's waiting list is currently 8 months long, I said professionally. But they can contact my office to submit a proposal. Dad was rapidly scrolling through news articles now. Eden Innovation, sustainable luxury, revolutionary approach. Morgan's designs have transformed. His voice trailed off. Isabel, this says your company is valued at over $500 million. $570 million at last valuation, I corrected. Though with the White House contract, that number will likely increase. Mom set down her fork with a shaking hand. But, your apartment, it's so small. I own the building, I said quietly. All 12 floors. I live in the penthouse because it has the best space for my experimental garden. That's where I develop new plant varieties and test irrigation systems. The room fell silent again. I could almost see them recalculating every interaction we'd had over the past 5 years. Every dismissive comment, every condescending remark. Why didn't you tell us? Mom finally whispered. I tried. Remember last Christmas? I started to tell you about my new water conservation patent, but you cut me off to praise Jessica's latest court victory. At Thanksgiving, I mentioned my Dubai project, but Dad talked over me to discuss Jessica's promotion. I took a sip of water. Eventually, I stopped trying. Jessica was still staring at her phone. The partners, they're saying your company's environmental technology could revolutionize urban development. That you're some kind of genius in sustainable design. I shrugged. I just see possibilities others don't. Like that worthless business degree you all thought I wasted. I used it to build a company that's changing how the world thinks about luxury landscapes and water conservation. Dad cleared his throat. But surely you have investors, business partners. I own 70% of Eden Innovation. Never took outside investment. Built it from the ground up, project by project. I allowed myself a small smile. Remember that silly little garden I designed for the Andersons 5 years ago? The one you mocked because I spent 3 months on it. Mom nodded weakly. That garden was featured in Architectural Digest. It won 3 international awards for sustainable design. After that, every billionaire in the country wanted an Eden Innovation garden. I had to hire 50 new designers just to handle the requests. And all this time, Jessica said slowly, he just let us think. That I was a failure? Yes. I met each of their eyes in turn. Because you never bothered to really look at what I was doing. You saw what you expected to see, someone who didn't fit your definition of success. Mom dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. Oh, Isabel, we've been so condescending, dismissive, embarrassed by me. I finished for her. Yes, you have. The sound of silverware clinking against china filled the awkward silence. Jessica pushed her food around her plate, her earlier confidence deflated. So, Dad finally said, his voice uncertain, the White House gardens will be my biggest U.S. project to date. We're incorporating historical elements while adding cutting-edge sustainable features. The final design will reduce water usage by 70% while maintaining the iconic look of the grounds. And they sought you out specifically? Jessica asked, a note of disbelief still in her voice. Eden Innovation is the best in the world at what we do. I pulled up another photo on my phone. See this vertical garden in London. It recycles rainwater and generates enough oxygen to offset carbon emissions from 3 city blocks. The technology I developed for that project is what caught the White House's attention. Mom was still shaking her head. All those times we criticized your clothes, your car, your apartment. My work clothes are designed by an Italian artisan who specializes in sustainable luxury gardening wear. That basic Tesla. It's customized with specialized compartments for my design equipment. And my apartment. I smiled. Well, that modest penthouse was featured in Architectural Digest last month. The weight of their misjudgment seemed to press down on the table like a physical thing. Years of dismissive comments, condescending remarks, and outright mockery hung in the air between us. I have an early meeting tomorrow, I said, standing up. The Singapore project needs final approval before we break ground. Isabel, wait. Mom reached for my hand. Please, we didn't know. That's the point, Mom. You never tried to know. You were too busy being embarrassed by your gardener daughter to see what I was actually building. I gathered my things, feeling the weight of their stares. The White House announcement goes public tomorrow morning. You might want to prepare yourselves for questions from your friends. As I walked to the door, Jessica called out, Izzy, wait. The partners really want to meet with you about the new building. I turned back one last time. Like I said, they can contact my office. Eden Innovation's waiting list is 8 months long, even for my sister. Ms. Morgan. My assistant Mia appeared in my office doorway. The White House press secretary is on line 1. They want to schedule the official announcement ceremony. I nodded, making a final adjustment to the hydroponic system in my design. Tell them I can do next Tuesday. And Mia, my family might try to contact the office. Unless it's a legitimate business inquiry, I'm not available. Understood. She hesitated. Also, there's a Jessica Morgan in the lobby. She said she's your sister. Of course. I should have known Jessica wouldn't respect normal business channels. How long has she been waiting? About 2 hours. She's wearing a suit that probably costs more than my monthly rent, but looks increasingly uncomfortable. I smiled slightly. Let her wait another hour, then send her up. I spent that hour reviewing designs for the Singapore project, deliberately losing myself in the complex calculations of water flow and solar absorption rates. When Mia finally showed Jessica into my office, my sister's perfect hair was slightly mussed. Her designer suit wrinkled from sitting in the lobby. Nice office, she said, trying to maintain her usual confidence as she took in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the living wall of rare plants, and the high-tech design stations. Very impressive. What do you want, Jessica? She smoothed her skirt, lawyer mode activated. The partners are very interested in incorporating your sustainable design technology into their new office complex. It could be a huge opportunity for both of us. Both of us? Well, yes. She shifted uncomfortably. If I bring in a client like Eden Innovation, they'll make me senior partner, and you'll get a prestigious project in the heart of the city. I turned to my holographic display, pulling up Eden Innovation's current project list. Let's see. We're designing gardens for 3 royal families, creating a floating forest for the world's largest cruise ship, revolutionizing the White House grounds, and developing sustainable technology that could transform urban agriculture globally. I looked back at Jessica. But you think I need your help to get a prestigious project? Her confidence faltered. I just thought that you could use my success to advance your career. After years of mocking my work? That's not fair. I didn't know. Exactly. You didn't know because you never cared to know. I stood up, walking to my living wall to check a sensor reading. Your firm can submit a proposal through proper channels, just like everyone else. Though our current waiting list is about 8 months. 8 months. Jessica's voice rose. But the partners want to break ground in 6. Isn't there something you can do? For family? I turned back to her, one eyebrow raised. Family? Like how you've treated me as family these past 5 years? She had the grace to look ashamed. We've apologized. What more do you want? I don't want anything from you, Jessica. That's what you don't understand. I built all of this without any support from my family. I don't need your connections or your firm's business. My phone buzzed, a video call from Dubai. I have a meeting with an actual client now. Mia will show you out. Isabel, wait. Jessica stood up. Mom's really upset. She hasn't stopped crying since yesterday. Can't you at least call her? I have a company to run. I answered the call, effectively dismissing her. Sheikh Abdullah. How are the new desert-resistant roses working in your palace gardens? As Mia led Jessica out, I caught my sister's reflection in the window. Her shoulders slumped, her usual confident stride reduced to a dejected shuffle. For a moment, I felt a twinge of something. Not quite guilt, but perhaps nostalgia for the closeness we'd once shared as children. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, design reviews, and press interviews. The White House contract had pushed Eden Innovation into an even brighter spotlight, and everyone wanted to know more about the company's mysterious founder who had emerged from nowhere to revolutionize sustainable luxury design. If only they knew how many years of hard work, study, and dedication had gone into becoming an overnight success. Friday morning, I arrived at my office to find my parents waiting in the lobby. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed. Dad looked like he hadn't slept in days. 2 hours, I told Mia. Then I have the Singapore video conference. They sat awkwardly on the sleek sofa in my office, looking out of place among the high-tech equipment and rare plants. This is quite a place, Dad said, trying to break the ice. Very impressive. That's what Jessica said. I kept my voice neutral, before she tried to use my success to get a promotion. Mom wrung her hands in her lap. We've been doing a lot of thinking, Isabel, about how we treated you, how we never really listened. 5 years, I cut in. For 5 years, I tried to tell you about my work. Every time I made a breakthrough, won an award, signed a major client, I tried to share it with you. But you were always too busy praising Jessica's latest minor victory to hear me. We were wrong, Dad said quietly. So wrong. When I saw your company in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, next to an article about how Eden Innovations technology could help solve water crises in developing countries, I smiled slightly. Funny how my playing in the dirt turned out to be more impactful than corporate law. Mom started crying again. We were such fools. All this time we thought. You thought exactly what you wanted to think. I handed her a tissue. That I was a failure, a disappointment, an embarrassment. Can you ever forgive us? Mom whispered. I looked at them, really looked at them. My brilliant, accomplished parents who had never been able to see past their own narrow definition of success. Who had spent years dismissing my dreams because they didn't match their expectations. I don't know, I answered honestly. Right now, I'm focused on my company. We're doing important work here, work that could change the world. That's what matters to me. Could we see some of what you do? Dad asked hesitantly, maybe understand it better. I considered for a moment, then pulled up the holographic display of my latest design. This is a prototype for urban food forests. The technology we're developing could help cities become self-sustaining in terms of fresh produce. As I explained the intricate systems of water recycling and solar absorption, I saw something I'd never seen before in their eyes. Genuine interest, not just in the success or the money, but in the actual work itself. Maybe that was a start. 3 months after the White House contract announcement, I stood in the Rose Garden, watching as my team installed the first phase of our sustainable irrigation system. The morning sun glinted off the new sensors, nearly invisible among the historic roses, but powerful enough to revolutionize how these iconic gardens would be maintained for generations to come. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Saw you on Good Morning America today. Your urban food forest project is amazing. Dad and I tried growing tomatoes using your app's instructions. I smiled slightly. Since that day in my office, my parents have thrown themselves into learning about sustainable gardening. They transformed their backyard into a mini test garden, following Eden Innovations' public guidelines. It wasn't exactly forgiveness, but it was something. Ms. Morgan. A White House aide approached. The First Lady would like to discuss extending the project to include the kitchen garden. As I followed her inside, another text came through, this time from Jessica. Congratulations on the Time magazine cover. The woman revolutionizing sustainable luxury. You deserve it. My sister had finally stopped trying to leverage our relationship for her firm's benefit. Instead, she'd taken a new job with an environmental law practice, occasionally consulting with Eden Innovation on legitimate legal matters. Our relationship was professional now, maybe even friendly. Isabel. The First Lady greeted me warmly. I've been reading about your work with urban food deserts. I think we could do something similar here. 2 hours later, I emerged with another contract, this one to create a model for sustainable urban agriculture that could be replicated in cities across the country. As I walked to my car, I passed a tour group. A young girl pointed at me, eyes wide. Mom, that's her. The garden scientist from my school project. I stopped, turning to the girl. You did a project about sustainable gardens. She nodded enthusiastically. I want to be just like you when I grow up. My teacher says you're changing the world with plants. Her mother looked embarrassed. I'm sorry, she's very excited about science. Don't apologize, I said, kneeling to the girl's level. What's your name? Sarah. Well, Sarah, never let anyone tell you that your dreams aren't important enough. I pulled out a business card. When you're ready for college, contact my office. Eden Innovation has a scholarship program for young scientists. The girl's eyes lit up as she clutched the card. As I walked away, I heard her chattering excitedly about hydroponic systems and water conservation. That evening, I sat in my rooftop garden, surrounded by the experimental plants that had started it all. My phone showed missed calls from various media outlets. Everyone wanted to know more about the gardener revolutionizing luxury design. I thought about how far I'd come from those early days when my family dismissed my dreams. The Wall Street Journal had just valued Eden Innovation at over $1 billion. We had offices on 4 continents, a waiting list of prestigious clients, and technology that was genuinely helping address global environmental challenges. A notification popped up. Mom had shared an article about Eden Innovation's latest breakthrough in desert agriculture. Her comment read, "So proud of my brilliant daughter. I was wrong not to see it sooner." Below it, Jessica had commented, "My sister, the actual genius, was saving the world while I just pushed papers." Dad had added, "Those lawyers could learn a thing or two from a good gardener." I smiled, saving the comments. They were trying in their own way to make amends. It would take time to fully heal our relationship, but at least now they saw me, really saw me, for who I was and what I had built. My assistant's voice came through the intercom, "Ms. Morgan. The Dubai royal family is on the line about their floating garden project, and the Singapore Eco Tower just won the International Sustainability Award." "Thank you, Mia." I stood brushing soil from my custom gardening clothes. "Oh, and could you send some of our new desert roses to my parents? They're trying to expand their garden." Looking out over the city as the sun set, I felt at peace. I'd proven myself not just to my family, but to the world. That girl who played in the dirt had transformed the intersection of luxury and sustainability, creating something beyond even my own early dreams. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Sarah's mother. "My daughter hasn't stopped talking about meeting you. Thank you for showing her that no dream is too big." I smiled, thinking of all the future gardener scientists out there, ready to change the world in their own ways. Success, I'd learned, doesn't always look the way others expect it to. Sometimes it grows from the very soil they tell you to stop playing in. And sometimes that soil contains seeds of revolution.